All gas, no brake.
And now we have liftoff. Welcome into the Now We Have Liftoff New York Jets podcast. I'm your host, John June, and joined by the guy to the left of me, Frank Jim Piccolo. Frank, what's shaking, bro?
Not much. I just, on behalf of the Now We Have Liftoff podcast, I want to declare today 2/28 day or 2/8 day in honor of Curtis Martin, because today is February 8th.
Yes, 2/8 day. I can get behind it. Curtis Martin day. I mean, the Zach Wilson, Elijahmoore kind of makes like a 28 behind me. So, you know.
Stop. Nope. It's Curtis Martin.
Hey.
Until they prove otherwise.
In honor of Curtis Martin, relax there, buddy. Yes, if you welcome into the show, it's been obviously too long since we've been here, so we got to get some of that tension out of the way, because we've been a minute since we've been on the mic here talking about our New York Jets, and as you can tell, we're in off-season mode because I am energetic. I'm full of spunk. I am not beaten down and dragged through the mud like I can be here on some of these shows. But we got a boatload of draft picks, we got a boatload of cap space, we've got some core pieces that we feel comfortable building around. But before we get into any of that, though, anything of that nature, right, before we even get into the Senior Bowl, which obviously we're going to break down, we got to finish a breakdown, man. We're talking about these special teams, and let's just kind of get it out the way. We're going to break down some special teams. We're also going to talk about Saleh, get into a little bit of Joe Douglas as well. And then from there, we're going to go right into off-season type stuff, headlines. We're going to talk about the Mekhi Becton stuff, the Senior Bowl, things around the league. So, we'll get into a little bit of everything. So, again, we appreciate y'all kicking it with us here live on this Tuesday night, just about 7 p.m. A little bit, 3 minutes before 7 right now as we record this. But obviously, if you're listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you may be listening, we appreciate the love there as well. Just make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and just make sure you're plugged in on every episode because you don't want to miss this juice. So that being said, Frank, let's get right into the special teams unit and let's talk about Brent Boyer, man. He's done a fantastic job now over, he's made it through 3 different coaching staffs. He's outlasted 3 different coaching staffs. The Jets, since having the, since the retirement, we'll call it, of Mike Westhoff, the Jets have struggled on special teams. They struggled for a while to really find, that guy to be the coordinator there and really hold it down. And Brent Boyer, he seems to be the best guy we've had doing that job since Mike Westhoff there, and led a Jet special teams unit that, according to Football Outsiders, Frank, let me see if you can guess this, where the Jets special teams unit finished in DVO in Football Outsiders DVOA metric here.
All right, let's do it.
So take a guess.
28.
They finished better than 28, sir.
19.
Better than 19.
Even with the field goal unit?
Even with that field goal unit, they finished better than 19.
18.
It's better than 18.
12.
Better than 12.
9.
Better than 9.
8.
Better than 8.
6.
Better than 6.
3.
Better than 3.
There's no way they're the best special teams unit in the league.
Well, because they're number 2. But
how is that possible? How is that possible? I don't even remember the guy's name that they had at the beginning of the year as the kicker that couldn't.
Matt Amendola. He haunts my life.
I know. All I remember is you screaming for him to be fired.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw they signed him to a future contract. The Jets. Hello.
Anyway, so the Jets, who were 29th in 2020, finished as the second best special teams unit. And I think there's a lot of reasons for why something like this happens, right? I think you saw that the overall depth on this roster got better, right? They didn't get, a ton of talent, but you felt more comfortable, about the guys on the depth chart than you have in years past. And there's a lot of young guys on this team as well, guys that are fighting to make the roster. So a lot of these guys end up playing on your special teams unit. And regardless of, besides having a bottom 5 field goal unit, they were top 7 in every other category. They were first as a kickoff return unit. They were 5th as a punt return unit in the same DVOA metrics provided by Football Outsiders. So the Jets special teams unit was a strength, on the year, not counting the field goal unit. So if they could really, Brent Boyer could continue. Like, the problem obviously isn't scheme with him, right? Because he's been doing this and he's been doing the best that he could with the talent that he's been given. And if they could, again, shore up the talent of the team, which that'll help the special teams unit, because now guys that might be starters for you are now like full-time special teams players and making an impact that way. Frank, what are your thoughts on, how the unit did in 2022 or 2021 and, what it could potentially be like going into next season?
Yeah, I think I love Boyer. I like his persona. I like how he coaches. Normally you get the special team coaches are full of, fire and vinegar. Westhoff was notorious of, I was going to say running up the sidelines, but I don't think it was more like a limp up the sidelines with Westhoff. But you knew when he was angry and when he wanted to get a point given. But I think a lot goes to, they brought in Justin Hardy from New Orleans. I think he kind of set a tone. I know me and you have talked off air, about guys like Rontez Miles and the such like that. But, these guys leave the Jets and they don't play anywhere else. They just kind of fade into football yesteryear. So I think it was important for the Jets to get a guy like Justin Hardy to set the tone about what a special teams is supposed to look like, how you're supposed to go about your day in and day out process being a special teams player. And I think a lot helped that this team is young. So they're demanded to play on this special teams unit. Guys like Nazardine and Sherwood and MC Squared, even Michael Carter, I think that has a lot to do with it, right? Like, you got a lot of young, hungry guys on this football team. And
don't forget Jeff Smith, the best gunner on the team.
Supposedly,
according to
all right. That's where I say, here you go, John.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I knocked you out your
No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's Saleh's fault, because we have Justin Hardy, who's probably like top 5 gunner in the league. But We have Jeff Smith, so nothing to worry about here.
It was just funny. Like, it's funny because the Jets, obviously they were at the Senior Bowl, and we're obviously going to talk about that. But Leon Washington, he's the assistant special teams coach, and he was mic'd up, and you could see the energy that he has, and I'm sure that he's you're watching him interact with college kids that he's coaching for a week. I can only imagine what his energy is like with the Jets and those bottom of the roster guys, that have an opportunity to make an impact on special teams. Special teams is it's kind of you're doing the dirty work, man. I mean, I was primarily a special teams player in college and even a lot in high school too. So like you're doing a lot of that dirty work. It's a lot of the stuff that nobody really wants to do, but busting through wedges, sacrificing your body to let somebody else make a.
There's none of that anymore, though.
None of that anymore as much. But anyway, Jeff Smith is 10 times the special teams player I ever was. So, I look at, again, like I was saying before, getting the roster up to a point where you feel really comfortable about the depth and the guys that are actually out there covering punts and kicks for you, right? You get some better athletes on the team that are able to do some of those things, right? So, Brandonechols, right? He's a guy. If the Jets go out and get a starting corner, right, Brandonechols probably becomes, a special teams player, right? Michaelcarter the second, a special teams player, and that's not a bad thing at all, right? And so I those are the types of things that I would look to. A guy I hope that they don't have to replace, but money talks, so we'll see what happens. Braxton Barrios, who made first team All Pro. The Jets only, believe it was the Jets only All Pro selection. And he's definitely the Jets only first team All Pro selection. Did get a alternate nod as a Pro Bowl return man there. So he had a phenomenal year. Obviously had a really good year as a receiver, but from a special teams perspective, he was number one in the league in kick return average 30.4 yards per kick return. That's actually 3 whole yards more than the second best player in terms of average yards per kick return in Andre Roberts, who we obviously know from his time with the Jets and obviously what he's done in Buffalo, and just throughout his career, he's been one of the best return men in the league. So, he averaged a whole 3 yards more than, a guy that's been one of the best return men in the league for the last, 2-3 seasons. And then he was also, I believe he was first in punt return average as well, if I'm not mistaken. No, he was, he didn't get enough punt returns to qualify for his punt return average, but he averaged 13.4 yards per return. Devin Duvernay from Baltimore led the league with 13.8. So his obviously had a good season there as well, just overall in the return game and even on offense. What would be your expectation, your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 of Braxton Barrios getting re-signed, returning to the Jets, and would you pay what it costs to get that done?
First, you got to tell me what it costs to get it done.
Well, the reports were out there. Rich Cimini, I think, had put in a recent article that it would cost about $9 million per year. That's what the Barrios camp is looking for. So
I would say it's about 20% that he gets that type of money. Maybe they settle on something like 3 years, 15 mil with like 12 million guaranteed. Something like to me, that's more reasonable. That's more guaranteed money than he's probably going to get on the open market. And I just think the Jets, if nothing alone, need him for punt return. In later podcasts, we'll get into what we think the Jets should do with that wide receiver depth group going forward. But it's going to be a problem, in my opinion, if Braxton Barrios is going to be counted on to be the number 3 receiver in that group.
Yeah, they definitely can't count on Barrios to be the number 3 receiver. I think he's got to be a number 4 receiver. But if the Jets are planning to spend one of these early draft picks, say it be 4 or 10 or even 35 and 38, if they choose to use one of those picks on a wide receiver, Barrios, playing on in somewhat of an inflated deal, right? Where, like you said, you give him a 3-year deal somewhere about $5 to $6 million a year, and maybe you guarantee the first 2 years of it or something like that, and give all the guaranteed money up front. And it allows you that opportunity, like when you do have to pay Elijahmoore, or you do have to make a decision on what to do with Correydavis, or even looking towards the future with some of these other players on offense, right? Like, you can make the decisions to move on from some of these players, like a Barrios or a Correydavis. I do hope that they do get something done. It's it seems like it would be typical of the Jets to have a player like this in their house for as long as they did, and for them to not be able to keep him after having a breakout season. So
when are you going to thank Adam Gase for signing Braxton Barrios? I haven't heard you say thank you, Adam Gase, yet.
Yeah, so I was saying about Braxton Barrios, right? I mean, we should thank Adam Gase for this whole operation if we're going to play this game, right?
No, absolutely.
You said this the other day, right? Like,
I know we talk about this all the time.
We got to thank him for Joe Douglas. We got to thank him for Salah. We got to thank him for Elijahmoore, Michaelcarter. Like, we should thank him for all of it.
And denzelmims. Thank you for denzelmims.
And Mekhi Becton. And the whole 2020 draft class.
Ashton Davis.
But all in all, I think that they're probably going to get something done with Barrios, because if it is about Zach Wilson, if it is about developing him and putting pieces around him, then you got to make him comfortable, right? Like, I always think back to when Mark Sanchez was entering his 3rd season in the NFL, right? They had just shown you the chemistry that he had with Santonio Holmes and Braylon Edwards and Dustin Keller, and then in year 3 they just said, yeah, no, we're just gonna blow that up. Like, we'll have Santonio, we'll bring in Plaxico Burress instead of Braylon. We'll replace Jericho Cotchery with Derek Mason, and we'll replace Brad Smith with Jeremy Curley. Like, they had a plan for everything. And
Curley wasn't bad.
No, Curley wasn't bad, because he ended up being a replacement for Derek Mason, which was fine.
That was who was bad. Yeah, that was the worst one out of the whole group. Even Plax was bad too.
But they did the opposite of what you're supposed to do, right? With a young quarterback, where it's like, oh, well, we can surround our guy with guys that are that have chemistry. They're playing in the same offense. For now, it would have been him and Braylon's year 3 together, right? Him and Dustin Keller would have been together in year 3. They got rid of, or I think Keller got hurt actually, and then they ended up getting rid of him. But just was a bad. Like I think that whole operation was just bad. And Sam Darnold, obviously, he never had anybody to really gain chemistry with. And so I think that just having Zach, giving Zach the opportunity to grow up with some weapons would just be more beneficial than saving $2-3 million in cap space.
Yeah, and for what? What are we saving it for? Like, I know you get to roll it over, but I think we're at the point now with Joe Douglas that we're gonna need to start seeing some tangible evidence of this team going forward. And me and you kind of differed where this rebuild was supposed to be. Like, I think going into this year, you expected Jets to compete for the playoffs, right? And I'm not I'm not there. I just want to see, like, when December 1st hits, like, I want to see them at like the 5 to 6 win mark. That's where I want to see them in December, where maybe they're outside the bubble, just outside the bubble.
You know what? We're gonna have this conversation a little bit. Let's wrap up the special teams here because we're gonna have this conversation. There's some stuff that I want to say. I think you know where I'm going. Let's just talk about the kicking game. The kicking, like Brady Man, he was hurt. He came back. It was fine. Don't need to talk about Brady Man. Like it is what it is. He's okay. He'll be fine next year. The kicking situation is what I really this is one that just like really just boils my blood, right? Because there were so many times, especially early in the year, where like just a made kick could have changed the complexion of the game at a certain point in the game, right? Like a miss and just like even the kicks that Saleh was having, Matt Amendola attempt out there, giving the other offense like immediate, like wonderful field position because you tried to attempt like a 55-yard field goal with the guy that was missing an extra point or like a 40-yard field goal. But here you go trying to make like this 55-yard field goal for what reason? I have no idea. But it was just really frustrating to watch. And I was happy to see Eddie Pinheiro come in and stabilize the situation. He made 8 of his 8 kicks compared to 13 of 19 for Amendola there. Was able to knock one down from 50. Both these guys did miss an extra point. But again, at the end of the day, Eddie Pinheiro just felt it just felt better there. So I hope they bring him back. I think that he's a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. I hope they do bring him back. It would have been nice to see. It would be nice to also see them use this lovely draft capital to just draft a freaking kicker like this Evan McPherson guy who was a 5th round pick last year, right? Like the Jets, I get it. They have a ton of needs, but kicker is one of them. And you could see how many times, like if you don't have a kicker, it can come back and bite you in the ass, especially when you are a team in the Northeast that refuses to put a bubble over your stadium. And so you want to use that to your advantage. Well, guess what? You should probably invest in a kicker who can make some field goals in poor weather conditions. How about that? Rant over.
Okay. I'm with you. I just don't have the brain space to talk about kickers because they're not real people.
That's the problem, Frank. That's why the Jets can't have a nice kicker, because you sit here and you talk about kickers aren't people too, but then you expect them to go out there and do their job like a person. It's messed up. Got to have change, man. Kickers are people too.
Not until they actually start kicking. I guess because I feel like the Jets have been out of it for so long. Like, I'm not worried about the kicking situation at this point.
You know what it is? You need to bet on Evan McPherson. His like Caesars has been throwing some boost out there where if it's like he gets over 1.5 and somebody else gets over 1.5, and I know DraftKings, has a ton of props out there, kickers being one of them. So just take the over a 1.5 field goals on Evan McPherson, and you can't go broke taking a profit. You know what I'm saying? You'll feel better about kickers too. All right. With that being said, Frank, let's talk about Saleh, right? Because we talked about, pretty much all the coaches. We talked about how they did. One of the guys we didn't really talk about was Saleh, and how you thought he did. So in his first season as the New York Jets head coach, they go 4-13. He actually went 3-13. But I think he still gets credit for that win, which is kind of weird to me because he didn't coach the game when he was out for COVID. But there were times that I was frustrated with Saleh for sure. The decisions to kick, to repeatedly go for it or kick instead of going for it. We saw some of that aggression, some aggressiveness to go for it later in the year. I thought that there was opportunities in the season to, come out and kind of, set, an expectation for what kind of team we were going to be, and they didn't do that. They weren't aggressive. They played scared at times at the beginning. And, they were a young team. And so, they're dealing with a lot. They're juggling a lot of things. They're trying to teach these young guys while also, trying to not kill their confidence and things. So, like, I get that part of it. And I think he'll be fine in year two, especially as the talent gets better on the team. The one thing, and I know, Frank, I said this to you, the one thing that I would love to see from Saleh, I would love to see him come out right now, right? It's February 8th, Curtis Martin Day. I'd love to see him come out right now, today, and say the goal for the New York Jets in 2022 is to win the division and host a playoff game. Because if you say that, you energize the fan base, you energize your players, you like, who cares if it's going to make headlines, right? Like ESPN will put it up and they'll talk about it on Get Up, like, oh, would you believe what Robert Salah said? But like, who cares? Like, let them talk about you for that, right? Instead of talking about you for being 4-13 or talking about Zach Wilson throwing interceptions or talking about all these other things, right? Like, that's what Rex Ryan used to do. He said, say he'd put it on himself. But what it also does is you let the free agents out there know, like, this isn't the same old Jets. Like, we're coming out here. We have a mission. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Like, look at the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They hadn't won a playoff prior to the season, hadn't won a playoff game in 31 years. And now they're one win away from potentially winning a Super Bowl. And what did Joe Burrow been saying since September? The objective, the goal is to win the division. He didn't care that there's Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. He didn't care, that in Pittsburgh they had Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin. He didn't care that in Cleveland they had Baker Mayfield and that they had just, made the playoffs the year before. He didn't care about any of that. He just cared about doing what they had to do to win the division. And I think if the New York Jets, if Robert Saleh, the head coach of the New York Jets, comes out and sets that standard, right? The Jets always say the standard is the standard. Well, let the standard be winning the division, an AFC East crown, and making the playoffs. Let that be the standard.
Whew. Monologue over. I hear you. I'm just more, I don't want to say pessimistic, but I'm just being more realistic, right? Because I was for a complete teardown. And I think it's unrealistic to compare these Jets with the Bengals that we're watching. Because number one, I don't think Zach Wilson's ever going to be Joe Burrow. That's number one. And number two, that defense that they have over there is real. They got some players on that defense. The Jets, even if they spent all the cap space and hit home runs on every one of these draft picks, I don't think we'd be able to compete with that team minus the offensive lines. Like, I think our offensive lines are comparable. Actually, I think ours is probably rated a little bit better. I'm just going to have more patience with this because I want this built in the right way. Like, I don't want to be hyperbolic where I say, you know what? The Jets need to make the playoffs or I'm going to lose my stuff, right? Like, I'm not there. And I don't think I don't think that's what you're saying, but I'd like for there to be a sense of urgency, but it doesn't have to be right now. Like, the sense of urgency could come at OTAs after we know what our roster is. Like, that used to like drive me crazy when Rex would make the declarations at the combine that they're going to win the Super Bowl when you don't know what the team looks like. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a delusional Jets fan that's been beaten down for all these years, and I don't know how to appreciate nice things.
Well, I think you are somewhat right. I will agree with you. And so I'm not saying that the Jets need to make the playoffs, or I'm going to say 2022 was a failure. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, and I've said this to you before, and I said this on the show, my expectation for the Jets is to not make the playoffs. My expectation is when I see, I'm watching the games in December, January, it's week, 13, 14, 15, and they have the graphic on the bottom about the playoff teams. They're showing them. And maybe the Jets aren't 6 or 7, but in the hunt, they put that in the hunt graphic up there. And guess what you see? The New York Jets. And I'm not saying that they need to make the playoffs. I'm just saying they need to make that their goal. Right? Not to the point where they're sitting there, Rex Ryan's crying in, week 16 because he thinks that we were eliminated from playoff contention. I'm not saying that. They need to go into the season saying this is our goal, right? And like we've all been there, right? We've all been athletes. We've all set goals in life. If you set a goal and everything you do, every fiber of your being will be for that goal, for that ultimate goal. And if the Jets are not, or if they're just going through the motions, like, we're just trying to be one of the best of the 32, right? Like, we're just trying to win every game. Everyone tries to win every game, right? But what is your objective, right? Do you want to win a Lombardi trophy? Do you want to make the playoffs? Is that what you want? And I just want to hear them say it. That's it. Is
it important for you for him to tell the fans this?
I just think he needs to say it.
No, but we don't know if he's not saying it.
You're right.
But that's why I asked, is it important for you to hear him to say it to the fans?
Yes, it is important because what I want him to say is because they're going to ask him, like, what's the goal for this team? Oh, well, of course, the goal is to, to go out there and win the Super Bowl. right? But I want him to come out and say, like, with some gusto, like, hey, like, we expect to win the division. Like, who cares if you piss Buffalo off? Right? Like, who cares? I would like to see that fire. I'd like to see it. It's just, again, personal preference of mine, but I just want them to set that standard. And the other part where I said I disagree with you a little bit, right? You look at Cincinnati. Just a year ago, where they are now, right? Not too different than the New York Jets, right? Like, you got your second year quarterback. Joe Burrow was obviously the number 1 pick. Zach Wilson, the number 2 pick. You got a second round wide receiver, Elijahmoore, T. Higgins, right? Now you're coming into a draft. You've got a top 5 pick. The Bengals had the number 5 overall pick. They took Jamar Chase. Obviously, there's no Jamar Chase in this draft, so I'm not even going to go there. But the Jets have the number 4 pick. They also have the 10 pick, right? So they have an opportunity to add even more players. And then on top of that, the Bengals last year were one of the they made some key additions in free agency. Trey Hendrickson, Chidobe Awuzie at corner. So I think they added a linebacker as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they made some additions there on defense to help shore up what was a previously poor defense. Larry Ogunjobi they added as well. So, like, there are some opportunities here for the Jets to kind of replicate a little bit of what Cincinnati did in the previous offseason. And I don't think Zach Wilson is Joe Burrow. I don't think he's going to be, but there's no reason why he can't have a similar type of trajectory to Joe Burrow without the, Joe Cool being, the man.
Oh, I agree with you. And I'm God knows I want Zach Wilson to have a second year like Joe Burrow had this year, because you got excited for us drafting Michael Carter. If Zach Wilson has a year anywhere close to what Joe Burrow had, bro, I'm telling you right now, there will be some
Guys. Frank, this is a PG show.
I know. So. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I've been we have been starved Jet fans, especially with the quarterback position, for a long time. But that being said, that's just where I'm at. I'm willing to play the long game because I've seen how the Jets go crazy with free agency, and then the next 3 years we're in salary cap hell, and we got to trade guys or can't re-sign guys. Then we don't know how to draft, and so I'm okay playing the long game if we could have a stretch like we had with Herman and Mangini and Parcells, where for a decade straight we make the playoffs 8 out of those 10 years. Like that's the end goal. It's not year 2 of a rebuild to make the playoffs and get bounced in the wild card round. It's to be continually competitive, and hopefully we're in a position where we could start competing for world titles.
I think that losing in the wild card round year 2 is perfectly okay.
It is perfectly okay, but I'm saying if they don't make the playoffs in year 2, I'm not going to be concerned.
And I never said that.
I understand. I'm just expressing how I'm feeling.
So how many wins would it take for you to consider the season a success? If you had to put a win total,
7 plus.
7 plus. So 7 and 10.
I think it's a success.
I think I need 8.
But it also how it looks for me, right? You can't just tell me
I
give
know.
me
I
a
know.
number, right?
I know.
Like how does those 7 wins look? What does that schedule look like? How, like we know who the Jets are playing, but what does that schedule look like?
I know, but I think 8. I think 7 and 10 would be like it'd be okay, right? It's like it'd be okay. I think it
That
would be.
but
I think 7 and
that
10 would be fine. 7 and 10 would be fine. I take it back.
that
I take it all back. 7 and 10 would be fine. Take it back. It's just weird because I had to ask myself, all right, would you be okay if they went 7 and 9? And I was like, yes, I would be okay if they went 7 and 9. So I'll just take 7 and 10. Okay. What are your thoughts about Saleh?
I like him. I think it took him a little while to get comfortable being a head coach. Like, I think in the beginning of the year, he tried not being him. Like, I think he tried being like that quote unquote head coach, right? That, that I got to be calm. I got to be collective. I can't show emotion. Basically, Eric Mangini, where, I can't be me because all these guys are looking at me, and I'm going to hear it from the media. And you saw that towards the end of the year, him getting into it with the officials, him screaming when offense, defense, special teams made a big play. Like, especially towards the end of the year when Zach would have a big play, you see him right there, right? Especially because you got the Hobbit. I don't mean Hobbit like that, but I mean I meant to say Yoda because LaFleur seems so smart now when he's up in the booth calling all these great and innovative plays. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I have nothing to say.
No, you took yourself off mute for a reason.
I was just wanted you to think that I had something to say, but I have nothing to say.
Oh, okay. Anyways, but that's what I think about Saleh. I was high on the hire from day one, and I think he's going to be a good coach. I just want to see how they're going to fill out the rest of the staff because I still think it doesn't sound like they're going to bring Beck back, and I don't know how I feel with Calabrese being the game day ear for Wilson.
So apparently, according to Connor Hughes, Beck was there to learn what the Jets want from their quarterback.
So smart by the Jets. So smart. I love it. You hire a guy for half the year so he could teach Zach going into year 2 about what he needs to do to get better. Perfect.
Yeah, well, it's a lot about how they want him to see how they're coaching things, right? So when he's going into the off season, working on some stuff, maybe there's some things that they don't want the Jets don't want him working on anymore. Who knows? But I definitely think that that's advantageous to them, to everybody involved, right? Zach Wilson as well as the Jets. So Calabrese, I think he'll be fine as that mentor. They didn't bring Kavanaugh back. I think they're going to bring in a quality control coach of some sort to fill that third role. But yeah, we'll be curious to see. I mean, seems like Saleh has his hands on the on the pulse of the staff pretty well. So I like that part of it. What do you think of the job Joe Douglas has done? Right, like I think we talk about the Jets in 2022, and if this does go poorly, right? If they do go 2-15 or 3-13, right, or 3-14, like somebody's head is going to fall for that, and
They both are going. They're both are going to go.
I mean, I think I could definitely see both being gone, but Saleh I think would have an easier time convincing the Jets that he
I
should
think
stay.
that I think the Jets are done. I think the Jets are done with these half marriages.
Yeah, but then also, I mean, I'm just speculating, right? Like, and we're out from this,
But again, it depends what it
but
looks like. Does Zach Wilson get hurt at the beginning of the year and he's out for the season?
I think that yeah, it would all depend, but I think either way, like a head would have to fall for it, right? Like you're right? If it's Zach Wilson, right? Like then, yeah, but at the same time, Zach Wilson was a kid that had injury history coming out of
Yeah.
BYU, and you chose to take him number 2. So that's still
I still think
regardless of
I think
some reflection
I
on
think regardless
Douglas.
of what happens, I think this whole crew is going to get another year. I think what could happen is you could get like a situation down like you see in Carolina with Matt Rule where all the coordinators are gone and he brings
I,
in
I don't know. I can't see it if they go like 3-13. I can't see nobody nobody of significance losing their job. I could definitely see Joe Douglas losing his job at that point. I could definitely see like even Saleh just being as well connected as he is, right? Like he could who's to say he couldn't convince Woody Johnson like, hey, I know a GM out in San Francisco, or there's this guy I worked with in Seattle, right? And having essentially like the coach pick the GM, kind of like what Rule did, right? So like I think a lot of things are on the table. I think that with the sport being the sport that it is and having a ton of variance, I think that anything could literally anything could happen. So again, not saying that I believe that anybody's going to get fired. I'm just saying Joe Douglas is probably the guy that people would point to most likely, right? Because it would mean his draft picks aren't contributing. It would mean his free agency, another free agency that probably didn't go well. So there's a lot of things. There would be a lot of things at play here with with Joe Douglas. So, what are your thoughts on Joe Douglas as we enter 2022?
mixed. Like his draft this year was phenomenal, right? And if anything, that's what's gonna. If the Jets have a poor season,
Can I just say that we said this about the 2021 class after the class? I'm just saying this class is definitely better than 2021. I'm just saying
you mean
I
2020?
personally will not fall. Yeah, 2020. I will not fall into that trap because I remember saying about the 2021 class or the 2020 class how good of a class that was entering 2020.
Yeah, but if I know this is revisionist history, but if you compare how we felt then at the end of 2020 to how we felt after 2021,
100%. 100%.
right? Like it's not even close. When you talk about
100%.
I
You
don't
got
know,
4 starters. You had essentially 4 starters from the 2021 class.
and possibly 5 if Pinnock makes that move to safety.
Actually, I didn't even count Michael Carter, so you really had 5. Michael Carter the second, you had 5, right? So
Are you counting Sherwood?
no, I was going Zach Wilson, AVT, Michael Carter, Elijahmoore, and the other Michael Carter. So that's 5.
And then if you count Pinnock,
And
it's
if you count,
6.
I'm not going to count Pinnock because he's not really a starter. Not
Sure,
yet.
Sherwood, possible starter.
Neither a starter.
Right. No, I'm just saying when you go through
I mean, I would
Jets,
hope that Sherwood. I'm honestly at the point where I hope Sherwood. I just hope they get like
another linebacker.
Devondre Campbell and instead of
Bro.
Sherwood's special teams.
Bro. All right, we can't talk about
So-
this right now.
So I mean, if Joe Douglas, I mean, you were going. I interrupted because I was just like, I'm not saying that, but go ahead.
Where was I? I forget.
You were
what
talking about Joe Douglas. The
Oh,
2020
yes.
class,
So-
2022 class, 2021 class was really good.
So the 2021 class was really good. So, But when you look at his free agent signings that he's made, like there's a lot to be desired. Like phenomenal. And I'm just going through offensive line real quick. Moses, okay. He brought in the center that played for Carolina out of retirement. That was a disaster. He was done. Vanroten, terrible. Feeney.
What about your boy?
Who?
Connor McDermott. Or Connor McGovern.
Yeah, my boy. I think that was a decent signing, to be honest, right? He is what we thought he was. You know, he's a middle of the road center. He's not he doesn't move the needle one way or the other to me like Moses does positively or Fant rather, or both of them. And he's not going to move it negatively like Vanroten does. But
yeah, I can see that.
Right? And even on the offensive side of the ball, like Correydavis, all right, decent, I guess. You know, but he didn't re-sign Robbie when we had Robbie. So, in my opinion, he's got to hit on the free agents and the draft classes here. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, Joe Douglas's pretty much career right now is tied to Zach Wilson. And if Zach Wilson doesn't succeed, this front office, this coaching staff could potentially be out the door, right? So, like, it all comes down to making sure Zach Wilson has success. And I think that you're going to see the moves that Joe Douglas makes reflect that, right? So I think it's going to be upgrading the weapons via the draft, via free agency, especially free agency. Maybe, you know, Joe Douglas sounded like a guy who's going to be aggressive in the trade market, even the veteran market. So I definitely see Joe Douglas using these resources that he has available to him to try to field the best possible team that he can. We're running out of time here, so probably not going to get into the headlines. But we do want to talk about a little bit about Super Bowl. Maybe we'll talk about headlines as quickly as we can. We'll do like rapid fire. But if we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, then we obviously have to tell you about the lovely folks at DraftKings. And the moment that we've been waiting for since September is finally here in honor of the big game. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Just bet $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country. That's crazy. If Sportsbook isn't in your state yet, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers can get a free shot at a $1 million top prize with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code TPPN, and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Tennessee. Call or text the TN Red Line 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8 Hope New York or text Hope NY. That's 467-369. Crushed it. What's up? Let's talk about these games here. And according to DraftKings Sportsbook, the Bengals are 4.5-point underdogs. That's, I like that line a lot. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I lost the total on the game. I would imagine that the game would just be like right here for me, but it's not. Sorry. But Frank, what are you thinking about this game and the opportunity here, with the Bengals and the Rams, and the Bengals being 4.5-point dogs here?
I've been going back and forth on this pretty much.
48.5-point total, by the way.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this all week because the strength of the Rams, I think, is at D-line. When you talk about Von Miller and Aaron Donald in particular, and the weakness for this Bengals team has been the offensive line. Like, Burrow's pretty much gotten beaten up all season. Does he have some more magic in him? You have that famous saying about Burrow, which I've been living on all year, but I think it's going to be a little bit difficult this week. Is Chase allowed to go off against Jalen Ramsey? I don't know. Jalen Ramsey is one of the best cover corners in the league. And I literally have just made this decision right now. I'm going to take the Rams and the +4.
Yeah,
4.5. Sorry,
4.5. It's just I'm so torn, man, because I've been riding the Bengals all postseason. I've basically been riding them to cover since the wild card week when they were like 7-point favorites against the Vegas. And I was like, that's it. I took them to cover the week after against Tennessee. I took them to cover against Kansas City. Even took the live line against Kansas City when they were +11. So, I've just been, hammering Cincy to cover. So 4.5, I think that they get that there. They'll get, I could see them losing a 3-point game. I will, however, oh man, I think this is the first time I'm going to say it, but I think I'm gonna take the Bengals to win. I think I would take the Bengals on the money line. I think the Rams are a good team, but and while you're right, that D line has been the struggle there. The money maker for the Rams and the money taker for the Bengals. I just think that they have enough weapons. They have that run game and Joe Mixon that they can lean on as well, which will help with the play action game, which will help slow down that pass rush. I mean, Aaron Donald lives by stopping the run on the way to the quarterback. He lives by that. So there's some opportunities here for the Bengals to run the football. And again, if they want to put all the attention on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is a damn good receiver in his own right as well. So, I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm gonna take the Bengals to win the Super Bowl.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about let's just rapid fire some headlines real quick.
Hold on, before we get into that, I have a question for you that we were talking about at work. So it was reported that the upper deck tickets were $15,000 a ticket for the Super Bowl. If the Jets were to make it, where's that line of demarcation for you where
I don't know. Ask me when they make it. I'm sorry. I don't. You know how my brain works, and we don't have a whole lot of time for this, so we just try to do the rapid fire questions. We'll have to cover it another time. But anyway, the Mekhi Becton news. Robert Salah at the Senior Bowl said Mekhi Becton will have to compete with George Fant for the left tackle job. Frank, are you buying this, or do you think it's a load of crap?
No, I'm buying it. I think the way that George Fant played this year, he earned the right to have a competition for that left tackle spot.
Yep, totally agree. I think that George Fant, it should be his job to lose, and that Mekhi Becton has to prove to this coaching staff that that he can be the guy that they can depend on to be their franchise left tackle. So the next headline is longtime nemesis Tom Brady retires from football after 22 years. 21 of which he spent tormenting us. 20 of which he spent tormenting us. But Frank, your thoughts on the retirement of Tom Brady? And he recently said never say never about a potential return. So do you see him potentially coming back?
No comment. I will refuse to talk about Tom Brady on this podcast unless we're playing him.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, do you think he will come back?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hated Tom Brady. Really strongly dislike the man. And I really don't like using the word hate. So really strongly dislike that person. Until he signed with Tampa Bay. And I didn't really hate him anymore. You really think about it, Tom Brady, he had some, he's embarrassed the Jets, he's beat them. But if you really think about the most important game that the Jets in New England have played against one another in recent memory, the Jets got the upper hand in that divisional round matchup. So don't really hate, I'm part of me was sad because as a football fan, like, my whole football life has involved Tom Brady, right? Like he was in it the year I started watching football, and he was in it up until this year here. So like pretty much covers a lifetime for me. So yeah, part of me, like, me being the football nerd historian that I love to be, is sad about that. But neither here nor there. Frank, there have been a lot of debates about what the Jets should do with the number 4 pick. What do you think they should do with that 4th pick?
I don't know. Depends what they do in free agency.
You have to answer that question now.
Hamilton.
Yep, and I want Ike Ekwonu, but that's just me. Any other topics that I missed here, Frank?
Middleton's speech, epic.
Middleton his speech was epic. If it moves, hit it. If it don't move, hit it. And there was some other part which I'm missing, but Frank, you should know because you watched it like 42 times apparently. So
if you think it moved, hit it. That was pretty much it. He was like a high school offensive line coach. It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. And I forget who put it out, but they said that you could tell the difference. No, not that one. There was a tweet that put out was that you could tell the difference between the two coaching staffs at the Senior Bowl, that there was a lot more enthusiasm coming from the Jets coaching staff.
Yeah, and the national team, they coached the national team. The national team did win the Senior Bowl. So definitely, it was nice for the Jets coaching staff to get a win. Anyways, that being said, I think we didn't go too crazy. We covered a lot today. We even got to we even got some rapid fire headline discussions in there too. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. So until next time, y'all, we love you. We appreciate you. Be safe, and yeah, we'll catch y'all in 2 weeks. Peace.